How's it going, everybody? I am a Donut. This is, of course, a Black Lives Matter, All Cops Are Bastards and Trans Rights supporting channel. I am here with my fiance, Thermite.
It's me, it's Thermite. Hello.
There he is.
Hey.
We are discussing Yu-Gi-Oh! Doing a retrospective on the first part of Yu-Gi-Oh! Just called Yu-Gi-Oh! Again, I gotta give this explanation every time. I know,
Of course.
originally in the Japanese, Yu-Gi-Oh! Was all one long series, and then in the English version it was split up, but also in the anime it was split up. And so, also he did take a break in between, the end of this and the next chapter, even if it's a very small break. He did take a break, clearly as in, this is, a thing, and now we're moving into a different thing. So,
Yeah.
this is where, we're doing a retrospective on just this. So, I do know, of course, that, moving forward, it's going to be, mostly all duelist going forward. Almost entirely just duelist going forward. Which also makes sense why we should definitely split it up here and talk about this stuff first.
Yeah, it is so fundamentally, a different series. Way more so than, in JOJO'S, the introduction of stands or something. People bring that up a lot as this is, a absolute paradigm shift. But that is nothing compared to, here is a series all about games, and then here is a series entirely about this one game that I invented.
Yeah. It's gonna be so interesting, because also with the fact that, it's been a while since we have done the card game. It's not even we did the card game, and then it got so popular that he then made the series all about that card game. We did the card game, people loved it so much, we did an entire arc where the finale was going to be that card game, and the first part of it was the card game as well. And then it's been, when this was coming out, it's been months and months and months since then.
Yeah.
So, that's really interesting. I always thought it was going to be he introduces the game and then people love it, and that's just what the series becomes from that point. But it doesn't seem like that. It seems like, people liked the game a lot, but it wasn't this huge blowout thing, except for, over the course of the whole series, he was the main thing that people keep talking about is this card game, so maybe I'll do that. Rather than, some huge explosion of the moment he does it, everybody immediately, fucking loves it.
Yeah, it's really interesting in that, narratively, at the start, he uses, Duel Monsters as more of just, it's Kaiba's signature game. When Kaiba comes back, then he brings it back as a, thematic, we're going to bring it back to this. And the same way with, Mokuba's thing is, Capsule Monsters.
Yes. Yeah, I really liked having those, and I really hope that sticks around specifically. I know we're going to be doing Duelist a lot, but I hope when we get Mokuba, he still does Capsule Monsters. Because, I don't want to see Mokuba just immediately do, Duelist stuff. I could definitely see it of, well, I need to be on the level of my brother, and this is my brother's game, so now I'm going to try that, too. But, I like that he has his own game. But, yeah. It could go either way. I think Capsule Monsters is one of the ones where, we off camera have talked a lot about, wouldn't it be crazy if one of these games was the whole thing going forward other than Duelist? And, I think Capsule Monsters is the one that feels the most that's what it could be.
I agree. It has the most, fleshed out stuff. There's a clear monetization thing of, you go to the gacha thing and you get a bunch of different monsters and you can just play with them immediately. It's so clearly, even though clearly he didn't design Duel Monsters or Capsule Monsters as a clear, oh, I'm gonna turn this into an actual thing and make $1 billion. Yeah. They both have that energy of, I can see how this could happen. It's very different from, I'm gonna monetize the game where you put bills on your hand and then stab through them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, certainly. Certainly true with that. But, okay, so, well, let's go into some, background for the stuff. Takahashi is somebody who, loves the old, Shonen Jump manga that is, super buff dudes going around beating the shit out of each other. And, seeing that energy in a game that, in a series that is, nothing like that at all, is so fascinating, because it still has that energy of, stuff like really JoJo's the main one that I know, because I know a lot of other ones, but I haven't read them myself or anything like that. But JoJo is obviously the big one. I know he loves Western comics a lot too.
Yeah, like the two big influences, like JoJo's is also very influenced by Western comics, but rereading Yu-Gi-Oh this time around gave me that big sentiment of like, yeah, this is so Silver Agey and so JoJo's inspired. It is like, that is such a big part of what makes it distinctive, along with, you know, his own Takahashi charm, his own like, I'm going to do something really weird in this very like schoolish way. Whereas like something like JoJo's might do a bit of school, but it's about the kids. And it's about like, you know, the school is just a place they go sometimes, as opposed to like, we're gonna deal with bullies and we're gonna deal with, you know, bad teachers and stuff.
Yeah, like, yeah, I love the vibe of it. Like you can feel it so well, even if the inherent like building blocks of it, the pieces are different.
Mm-hmm.
And keep going.
Sorry, in one of your reactions, you brought up specifically that Yu-Gi-Oh has a very strong, like, nostalgia energy now. Like, before it was just doing fads really, really hard, like stuff that was really popular then. And because of that, now it has this staying power of, like, you know, you look back on it, it's like, oh, yeah, it's the sneaker craze, it's the digital pet craze, it's, you know, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah,
And it really like that.
Yeah, it was like trends at the time. Like he was not trying to hit that nostalgia thing. He was trying to hit the like, this is happening to you right now.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like,
but yeah, like,
I love that vibe. Yeah, now when you go back, it feels extremely nostalgic, and it feels like he was going for a nostalgic thing, even though you know that he wasn't.
Yeah. It's such a insane way to like make the series feel so evergreen, because there's tons of other series I've read that have been, you know, a very similar, we're gonna do this thing because it's in the zeitgeist, or we're gonna do this, you know, thing that's popular this week, and it's not that nostalgic going back to it. And I can't quite say what the difference is, just that this arc, you know, this like saga of Yu-Gi-Oh really does still stick around. It still feels evergreen. So yeah, it's amazing.
I think a lot of it does help with the fact that like Monster Fight is a good example. Monster Fight is not like, hey, you guys remember this thing that's happening right now, but it is the, hey, we've all thought about something like this, right? We've all had the idea of a game like this, right? And it's like, that's what makes it feel nostalgic, of like, you are remembering something that never existed.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. He's like, also with like the way in which he'll craft a fictional game or a fictional trend, like there's just enough detail in it. Like there's just enough like, hey, also you need to have these chips that, you know, are read by the thing, or like this is, you know, how the gacha system works for capsule monsters. There's just enough there for you to cling onto it as like an actual thing of its own, as opposed to, oh yeah, they're doing the collectible card game thing, and it's super generic and no one would ever think about it.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. Is there any like trivia you have about Takahashi, or like, you know, pre-Yu-Gi-Oh like inspiration stuff that you want to talk about that I don't know of?
Not a ton, really. Like, he's, you know, very, very into Western stuff. He, of course, got the attention of Mike Mignola, the creator of Hellboy, and they like did an art trade, which was way more notable in like the early 2000s. Like nowadays, that's way more of a like, oh, this famous person on Twitter drew this thing for me. But at that point, that was a real like, what? Japanese people know about Hellboy? And on the other side, it was like, what? Mike Mignola knows about Yu-Gi-Oh? How could he possibly heard about this thing? It's so niche.
Isn't Hellboy, you know, also like one of his favorite, right? Or it is his favorite.
Yeah.
Which is even cooler. Like, it's not even just getting like a Western comic person, it's getting your favorite artist and, you know, your favorite character. Like, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and like Takahashi's very like, he's someone who hasn't really, like, how do I put this? Like, fame has, you know, sat with him very well. He doesn't do a lot of stuff. He'll do the occasional, like, oh, I have this idea, so give me some space, I'll do this idea. Or, like, but he still has this, like, humility. Like, he very recently did a Marvel thing that you'll read eventually.
Yeah.
And his reaction to it was basically like, I can't believe I can do this. Like, not in a, like, oh, I'm so honored. I mean, partially honored, but it was also a literal, like, I didn't think I was big enough for Marvel to be like, hey, you can draw a manga of, you know, this thing. Which is, like...
I already love Takahashi as an artist and everything like that. Like, he is so incredible. As a mangaka.
Yeah, and like he's gotten into this very comfy position in that like he still like draws like card art for some of the like modern Yu-Gi-Oh cards and stuff, but it is a very like occasionally he'll do it, or he'll do special art, or he does whatever he wants to right now basically.
Mm-hmm.
Like he has gotten out of the mangaka grinds. He is now just he's completely fine with like letting Yu-Gi-Oh as a franchise make money, but also like they won't touch the characters that he made unless he allows them to. So it is this perfect thing of like, they'll make other stuff and they'll do other stuff, but he can always be like, no, that is, that's staying right where it is. Don't you dare mess with that. Or, if people want it, then I will come in and I will write this, new story about Yu-Gi or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a perfect comfy place to be.
Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, I like being, when people are able to just have that, like, oversight over it rather than, like, having to be directly involved at every single time. Like, reading a lot of Fukumoto stuff, get that, from him a lot, too. Where, like, he's very involved with a lot of, like, the movies or anime stuff that comes out. And, like, but, he doesn't have to be, like, directly involved with it or anything. And, like, all the manga series as well that he is, like, an overseer for, but is not directly involved with.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I love when people are able to get to that point.
Yeah.
Like, it's much better than, like it shows they still care about it so much, whereas, like, the other mangaka who will get to that point and then not want anything to do with any of it, and just, like, I'm just retired, do whatever the fuck you want and give me my money.
Yeah. And, like, even in the publication of Yu-Gi-Oh, like, as far as we know, because of course you never know for sure, but it seems like as far as we know that Takahashi was not like forced to make the card game the major thing, but rather like he just saw the extreme outcry and the fact that people really loved it, and he was like, all right, like I like doing game stuff, but I have a lot of ideas for this, so I'm just gonna do this. Like I'm just gonna shift the entire manga to be about this thing.
Yeah, like, something that is notable whenever you read any Shonen Jump manga from any period in time ever is, like, you can feel the editor influence on a lot of stuff. It's very hard not to be able to tell, especially when you're going back to read some, like, old stuff. Like whenever you're going back to read something that's been long running and you read at the beginning, you're like, damn, I forgot, like, how much clear editor influence there was here at the beginning. And, like, Yu-Gi-Oh, I don't think I really ever felt that. I don't think I've ever been like, oh, that was probably an editor thing. Like, I don't think I said that once at any point.
Yeah.
It's very, very, like, feels like he's fully in control. And if there is editors, putting in a lot of influence in this stuff, he does it in an amazing way that makes it feel like it's coming just straight from him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, nowadays, that's such a unique feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, and again, I absolutely love Takahashi as a mangaka. I think he's incredible, but he also has so much of that, Araki, the mangaka of JoJo tendencies of just, like, he is so good and yet also very consistently, like, bad with certain things. Like, Araki's main thing is just forgetting shit constantly, or I mean, not even, I wouldn't say forgetting stuff, just dropping stuff, just going, changed my mind, never mind, completely different thing entirely. Same with, I mean, I love Hiria Oku, who does GANTZ, and he did the same thing, bring up a plot point and go, actually that doesn't make sense, fuck it, we're not doing that anymore. And it's just like, oh, you just gotta go, okay, I guess that's what we're doing, we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah, like it's that big artist energy of I'm not feeling this, so we're just not gonna do it. It doesn't matter if that doesn't really work with the narrative. I'm just not gonna do it. And like I find like the hallmark of that is people only really complaining about it in hindsight. Like the big, oh, that doesn't make any goddamn sense, but I didn't notice it at the time.
Yeah, I think Araki has a lot of that. Araki has a lot of, like, you think about it in retrospect and you go, wait a second, that doesn't make any fucking sense at all. Versus Takahashi has a lot of, like, in the moment, me going, wait a second, that you just said the opposite thing last chapter. But yeah, Takahashi, like, his problem, again, as I've said many times, is he doesn't know how to end an arc, and I hope he gets better at that. Because, like, his arcs are so fucking good, so incredible, and then you get to the very end, and it's like, yeah, I didn't really know how to end this one. As always. It's always just hit the magic button. But yeah, like, that's the one negative thing I can say about him, and so I wanted to just say, I absolutely love him, that's my one thing, I don't have to talk about that anymore. Bring it up at the beginning and then we got it. But but yeah, so should we go into like chapter 1, or do you want to still talk about some something else first?
I'm good with going into chapter 1.
All right. So, one, like, the very quick art style change in the series, like, in almost every series, you know, you start out and then so quickly the art, like, gets in its groove and everything like that. But, like, you know, the art in chapter 1 and everything like that looks exactly like JoJo. Like, it is the most, like, oh, he is really trying to go for the JoJo style here. Especially in the shoulders. Like, you know, that, like, the part 3 shoulders. You know, where they have that, like, fucking circle on them.
They're like toys, and how, like, chunky the shoulders are.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that was really funny. Like, that gets changed pretty quickly. But, yeah, I find that just funny. We also have, yeah, you want to talk about, like, you said this off camera, but, like, the whole inspiration for Yugi's design. Do you want to talk about that?
Oh, yes. That, like, Yugi is, like, or rather, his art sense is based on Edward Scissorhands.
Yep.
Like, Takahashi specifically wanted to do a very, like, bondagey main character, but he didn't want to, like, you know, have it be, like, a, you know, a full-on straitjackets, which is how we get this, like, combination of, you know, Yugi wearing mostly, like, a school uniform is, like, his uniform. But then underneath it, consistently, like, he's wearing black leather, and he's got, like, the big, like, choker.
Like, yeah, it is like a full, like, you know, binder that he's wearing, essentially, like.
Yeah.
And it's, I love that it's, like, sleeveless, too, and everything.
Yeah, like, I remember this very, very clearly from, like, way later in the series. And before, like, I reread this, I thought that was a much later thing in general. But if you read, like, the first volume, it's still there. Like, it's harder to see. But, like, he's always wearing the choker, and, like, whenever he takes off the shirt, it's very clearly he's got, like, the binder situation.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be fair, we don't see that until, like, Millennium World, I think, because, like, or maybe, like, a little bit before that. But yeah, like, it's pretty late into this that we get to see him with his shirt off for the first time, and it's like, oh, okay, that's what it was like under this. Not just, like, you know, like, as I kind of thought it looked like what Narancia wears from JoJo, but, like, not quite. Yeah, so I love that, you know, aesthetic of Yugi having the, you know, the, like, bondage gear under him. It is, and it's an amazing look, and it's so, just, it's cool. It's dope. I fucking love it. I'm not sure what else I can say about it. It's so cool. Like, you know, people talk about Yugi's hair so much, but I really think that the choker and everything, I mean, like, you know, I call it a choker because that's what it looks like the vast majority of the time under his shirt. I think that is really the main aspect of his character that I love. I talk about that a lot in the A Man from Egypt arc, but, so I don't want to go, you know, back into it a ton. But, yeah, I just think it creates that, like, you know, that sense of, I don't know, he's a little bit different, you know? He's not just going to be your average protagonist. He's not just going to be the goody two-shoes character all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, we see the straps and stuff a little bit in the first episode, or, like, first chapter, I should say. Like, when, like, Dark Yugi comes out, and, like, he goes to the school. Like, he's wearing the school jacket, but, like, he's wearing it over the, like, straitjacket-y look.
Oh, okay.
Which,
yeah, so we're back there, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that whole situation's a bit weird as well, because, like, he's also got, like, the big metal onks on his arms that gets dropped pretty quickly.
I did love that design, though.
And, like, just in general, I see people talk about this very rarely, but I do love the Yugi and Dark Yugi aesthetic of when, you know, Yugi has the, like, blonde in his hair down, and then it just, like, spikes up for Dark Yugi. Like, it's such a simple way to differentiate the two of them, but it's so simple yet so extra. Like, Yugi's hair is so distinctive.
It is. Like, yeah, I mean, it absolutely is incredible. You know, like, I just said, like, you know, people say that the hair is most important, but I think that the choker's most important. But at the end of the day, the hair is still unbelievably iconic. And again, like, it's the classic thing of, like, so many people nowadays, when they design their main characters, try and do a huge thing recently has been like let's do the Dr. Stone thing, where we just put lines on their faces, and it's just like Dr. Stone has influenced designs so much through that. But Yeah, I think like the idea of like just putting little markings on their face or whatever for your main character when they otherwise just look relatively pretty normal is so lame. Like it doesn't capture what Shonen Jump main characters have always been, which is like the silhouette is extremely easily drawable. And like that's also the thing. A lot of people way over design their main characters to where you know, a kindergartner is not going to be able to draw that character.
Yeah, like the sweet spot is a kindergartner can draw it and it's not perfect, but you immediately recognize who it is. And the lines on the face are like, they are a cheat code to get there. That is the like, oh, if someone draws Mash from Mashal, it's super easy because it's a guy with a bowl cut and he's got lines on his face.
Yeah.
But it's also, yeah, it's so not distinctive. Whereas like we are like 8 series in for like, you know, alternative Yu-Gi-Oh series, like after the main series, and none of those main characters, despite all having wacky hair, none of them have hair as distinctive as Yugi. Like his hair is just so perfect.
Yeah, like I can picture some of the other ones, but I can't picture what their hair. Like I was gonna say, like, oh, there's one that I is very iconic, but like I can't picture what his hair looks like. I just been picturing his face. So yeah, you're right. Like, it just doesn't have that same aesthetic. And I think that is because, like, a huge aspect of it is that Yugi's hair is multicolored. It's, like, 3 colors. And, you know, that also, like, helps it stand out tremendously. Because even if you are not drawing it in color, it's in different shades and everything like that. So, like, you can always get that across.
Yeah, like, it's just on the line of being over-designed, but, like, it's the kind of thing where I look at it, and objectively I feel like I should say it's over-designed, but it really isn't. Like, the red and the black don't overpower each other, and the blonde is, like, it's on a different layer from the red and the black. Like, it is his bangs. And that makes it very easy to tell what is going on. And you can, you know, draw those in all sorts of different ways. And it's still recognizably like, yeah, those are just Yugi's bangs.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing. Like, the bangs can be drawn, like, his hair can really be drawn in, you don't have to get it perfect, you know? Like, there is a certain number of big spikes that he has, and there's a certain number of the bang strands that he has, and they're always in a certain place. But you don't need to know any of that. You just need to get the basic aspects of the design, and you've got it. Versus, like, if you were drawing anybody, like if you're drawing Goku's hair, honestly, like if you're not getting the number of spikes that it has, it's actually hard to tell that it's Goku's hair.
Yeah, like Goku is deceptively simple.
Like, yeah, I think Goku has an extremely strong design that is very easy for a kindergartner to draw. But there's also plenty of times where I've seen somebody draw a, like, you know, alternate universe Goku, and I don't realize that it's Goku at first because it's like just a little bit too simple sometimes. But, like, I do think Goku is the, like, quintessential, you know, what you should be trying to have in your main character. Or, like, Luffy is a good example, too. Luffy is unbelievably insanely simple to draw. And his is technically just having, like, a line on his face with the scar under his eye. But I would say, really, the main thing is Luffy's eyes. Like, his eyes are drawn in a very distinct way. Like, you know, he has these little... His head is, you know, almost perfectly round. The straw hat as well is a, you know, you don't even have to draw him with the straw hat, but the straw hat adds a huge aspect to it as well. You just need these, like, aspects of the character. Whereas, like, Goku has the face, or sorry, the hair, and that's it. You know?
Yeah.
But again, I still think Goku is the best, but sometimes it can be a little bit too simple. But yeah, I also think Yugi is probably one of the best designs ever in history. Like, I do think that my top 3 probably would be Goku, Luffy, and Yugi. Like, those are probably the 3 best designs in terms of, like, a main character design.
I might just agree with you.
Because, like, there might be designs that I'm like, oh yeah, that's just a, you know, better design overall, or something like that. But, like, ultimately a design is meant for, like, a certain role, right? And so, like, it's hard to compare a design for one role to a design for another role because they're serving different purposes. And so, like, that's why I'm clarifying, you know, I think my top 3 main character designs are those 3. I'm not trying to cheapen it by saying that. It's just, you know, by necessity.
Yeah, I getcha.
So, now I feel like we could actually talk about Chapter 1 and everything. First off, our first arc, Chapter 1 through 8, probably my favorite stuff in the whole series. Maybe Monster World beat it out. It's hard to say. But I absolutely adored the first 8 chapters. Some of the most I've laughed during like any reaction ever, especially chapter 2. Chapter 2 is probably going to be my favorite chapter of Yu-Gi-Oh, hands down, ever. That is the one with the like TV director who is trying to beat up the students and stuff.
Tries to kill Yugi by throwing a dice through his face.
Yeah. It's so good. I love that chapter. Out of the 8 chapters, what is your favorite chapter? Is it chapter 2?
Out of those chapters, honestly, it might be... I think I like chapter 6 a little bit more. That's the one where they're doing the school festival.
Okay. Yeah, I like that one, but I don't think I would even put that one in my top 3.
I really like
just goes to show how fucking good all of them were.
Oh yeah, it was very difficult for me to think of it. But yeah, like I really like the group aspect of that, and the like a lot of the previous chapters are Yugi avenging a specific person, and like Yugi is kind of avenging a specific person or two there, but he's standing up for the whole class. It is the you have trampled on all of our souls, and you have literally invaded this specific space. Like, this area is something that was given to us. It is sacred almost, and you busted it in, and you put this grill here, and now I'm going to kill you using this grill.
Yeah, I love how quickly everybody turns to just murder in this series. Like, everyone is all immediately on board to murder anybody.
Yeah.
It's so fun. Like, yeah, I really appreciate the level of, like, I don't know how to phrase it, like that, like, in-universe, like, everybody getting wrapped up into the pace of something. And it doesn't matter what character it is, whether it is Dark Yugi saying we're gonna play a shadow game, and then everybody goes like, what, a shadow game? Fine, I guess I'll play a shadow game. I'll bet my soul. Or Shoddy coming in and being like, like, everybody just freaks out over everything, and they immediately believe everything. And I appreciate that. Like, no amount of, like, oh, this is bullshit. Everybody's like, all right, we're doing some supernatural shit. Whatever. Here we go.
Or, like, they will complain. They will say, like, why should I have to play a game with a smelly brat like you? But then they will do it.
Immediately, they'll go like, why should I do this? All right, fine, let's go. It's like, everybody's like, yeah, they will complain about it. They will say it's ridiculous, but then they are immediately going to do it anyway. Or, like, the museum guy with Shoddy, where he was like, this is, like, he freaks out immediately, but then he's like, oh, no, this is bullshit, it can't be true. But I am going to go along with this, and I am going to be absolutely terrified that I'm going to die, even though I keep saying I don't believe it.
Yeah, these early chapters are, like, I wish there was a series in Jump that could capture this energy. Like, just the idea of having a complete story every single issue that is a duel every issue, a weird, strange fight over something weird, is just, it's so addictive. It's such a, like, I'm so excited to see what happens next.
I mean, it's also why, like, in part 3, 2 of the most, like, popular fights in part 3 of JoJo, or I should have said it first, of JoJo, are the derbies. And, like, knowing that he's so inspired by JoJo, and knowing that this came out, after part 3, around that time, feels very, like, heavily inspired by the derbies. Especially Darby 100%. The Gamer. Like, I could fully believe that he saw Darby the Gamer and went, oh, what if I just did Yugi the Gamer for the whole series?
What if I did the King of Games?
And, like, it even has that aspect of Darby the Gamer had that, like, shadow game aspect of it where they're playing in this area that isn't real and, everything like that, and illusions going on.
Yeah. And, like, even the, like, those, like, the Darbys are so distinctive for also having the, like, soul elements to it. It's so unlike most JoJo's arcs, where it isn't a, like, you will die if this happens. It is a, like, you will, do something that's, in a sense, a fate worse than death, but also, like, we can lose, like, half of the cast and then, still win them back in the end. It's a really interesting dynamic. Yeah.
And, like, even, like, in part 4 when we got the stuff with Mikitaka and Josuke against Rohan, and, like, and then way later in, like, part 8 of JoJo, we've gotten more of that shit too. Like, I'm glad that Araki is still, liking this stuff. I wish we got even more of it in JoJo, because it's amazing in JoJo as well. But
Yeah.
like it's clear, it's just such a thing that people love in general, and like I am surprised that we don't have another series like this in Jump or in anything really. Because every series that tries to do something like this comes down to like, well, this is a series all about this game. And it's like, well, yeah, you better hope that people, you know, like that game or are interested in like reading the manga to learn more about that game. Because otherwise you're just shutting yourself off to like, that's a very niche audience you're hitting immediately.
Yeah.
Whereas Yu-Gi-Oh! Is like, we're starting off with everything, and then we introduce this game, people love this game, and now we can permanently be this game.
Yeah, I guess just the danger of doing lots of different games is if you're a mangaka that doesn't have a lot of like ideas about games, yeah, it's gonna be hell. Like Takahashi is so good at just coming up with weird stuff, and also like he has that JoJo'S Araki-esque like hyperfixation on a thing where it's like, hey, have you heard about shoes? Did you know a guy in New York got killed over these shoes? Or like, hey, have you heard about yo-yos? There's a gang that's killing people using yo-yos.
Yeah, I love like the hyper specifics are. Yeah, you nailed it with that.
Yeah, he's so good at taking some random thing that you wouldn't care about, and within like a page or two, making you go, okay, this is the most important thing in the universe for this chapter.
I love that vibe of like, yeah, everybody is like so obsessed with one thing for a chapter, and like, yeah, it's a vibe that I haven't gotten in anything other than like Psyche, which is parodying that thing, you know?
Yeah.
But you can't really count that. But okay, so
yes,
our first game was called Money and Knife. I don't know why. I want to go through like what the official names for the games are, and the penalty games and stuff like that, and like talk about them and stuff. But like,
please do.
So yeah, the first game we play was Money and Knife. Honestly, what a crazy one to like introduce as the first one, because it's not like most of the stuff in Yu-Gi-Oh, which is like an actual game that exists that people like to play. Like this is just way more a gamble, you know?
Yeah.
Which is not what Yu-Gi-Oh is usually.
Yeah, chapter 1, like for better or for worse, chapter 1 has a lot of like first chapter syndrome to it, where like Jonochi and Honda are way more evil. They're way more bullyish, and you know, everything's a little more heightened, and like it's not a bad vibe necessarily, but it's very clearly like, you know, this is the thing that he was really thinking about for a while, that he crafted into this first chapter, and then afterwards he got into the groove of like, okay, this is how I could do this for other chapters.
Yeah, Honda and Junichi or Junichi. Oh my god, I can't believe I've been saying Junichi's name wrong for this entire fucking thing. Like, it's so close. Junichi and Junoichi is what I was saying. Like, they're so close that I hope people thought I was just saying the right name. But
I mean, it's something I can never remember this. I've been, I've loved the series for so long, I can't pronounce his name properly consistently.
Yeah, I mean, I assume most people probably call him fucking Joey Wheeler, right?
Yeah.
It's the classic, like, oh, the dub did this thing, and we don't like it, but everybody just called them that anyway. There's some problems with that in One Piece, too. People are still, like, calling people old fucking names that are wrong.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, knowing that most people just call him fucking Joey Wheeler, I feel a little bit better that I only called him Junichi.
Yeah.
But either way, Junichi and Honda at the beginning of the series, yikes almighty. It's the kind of stuff I've seen in a lot of series where I'm starting to read it from the beginning, and so like I don't like, as a kid, you watch this stuff or whatever, and then you get so far away from it, you don't even remember like how it was in the beginning. But then when you start from the beginning, and it's like, Jesus Christ, these characters are terrible. And like where I'm at now, I'm like, yeah, I like Junichi, I love Honda, but more like I love Junichi, I like Honda. But yeah, it's that like early series syndrome that I don't understand what the problem is, but so many mangaka have that early series. I need to make all the friend characters absolutely terrible, and then slowly they're gonna get better. And I don't know why that's so common, but I hate it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad it didn't take long at all. I'm glad it was a very short amount of time. But yeah, there was plenty of portion of this that I was just like, I don't want Junichi to even be in the series at all. So I'm glad it was not like that throughout the whole thing or anything. But yeah, just that. Yeah, I don't know what Mangaka's problem with doing that at the beginning is, but either way.
Yeah.
What else do I have to say about that arc? I don't know. The villain of that arc was as weird as every villain normally is, but probably my least interesting one.
Yeah.
Like, again, I do love... This is way more of a thing when early this Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, the first 8 chapters, and then after that it started, stopping this, which is, like, every character having a very, very specific and laid-out plan.
Mm-hmm.
Like, having this long scroll of, like, how their fucking plan is gonna work. That is the most batshit insane thing you ever fucking heard.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, we still have, like, a little bit of that going forward, but not as much as, it was in the past with, like, Ushio or the ZTV director or, anything like that. Like the Scorpion guy. But yeah, so the penalty game, first penalty game in the series, penalty game of greed, the illusion of avarice. Really good name, and we got it, like, in the actual, like, a lot of the times we'll get our penalty name in the actual chapter, but then sometimes we don't. Depends. Because, like, sometimes the penalty game is just, like, sometimes the penalty game is a shadow penalty game, and sometimes the penalty game is just, in real life, the consequences for an action that they have taken.
That mix is something that I think of as, like, being distinctly anime/manga. The, like, we have the specific naming scheme for this really wacky sci-fi magic thing, but also we can just apply it to, like, I fell down the stairs.
Yeah. I do love that. It's so funny that you can get, like, penalty game, greed, the illusion of avarice, penalty game, fire. Not shadow fire, just normal fire that was already on fire and occurring. But okay, yeah. Second chapter we've talked so much about. It was the dice game. We had the ZTV director there as our player. Penalty game was the mosaic illusion. Still one of the best, like, final panels of, like, a penalty game thing. That mosaic was so terrifying looking.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like we talked plenty about the second chapter. I don't think we need to talk more about the second chapter unless you have anything to say.
No, I'm good with this one.
It's just the best chapter.
Yeah.
So, third game was the silence game. This chapter, I love this chapter. This might be, like, my second favorite out of this batch that we're talking about. The silence game was with Suzoji, the guy who was dressed up like Elvis Presley and everything like that. Made people... I love, specifically, there's so much hyper-specific bullying in Yu-Gi-Oh!
Oh, yeah, the weird bullying is... I wish we had more weird bullying arcs.
Like, I love that aesthetic of so many people around, and their school specifically. Like, there is even a gang that does not go to their school, but exclusively mugs people from their school with yo-yos. I don't know what, like, people have out with their school, but they hate it.
There's gotta be, like, a cursed sarcophagus, like, buried under their school.
Seriously.
They are cursed.
It's gotta be something. I would not be surprised if, like, yeah, we've got a mummy in the school, just in the closet.
Because I love the way that, like, Sozoji's whole deal, like, bleeds into the every chapter when we do a new fad that is the most important thing in the world. Like, it is a fundamental, everyone knows that he does this, and no one really talks about it, but it is so consistent that he brings people in, he's like, alright, I'm gonna beat your ass unless you hand out these tickets and make people pay for the tickets. I do this all the time. Everyone's going to buy these tickets and come to my show, and I'm going to sing bad karaoke at them while they suffer all night.
Oh, yeah, he's probably my favorite bully. Also, he just has an incredibly striking design, just because he does look, I mean, he's dressing up like, I'm not sure if I want to say, I mean, it is Elvis, but it's also, like, this trend in Japan of just, like, like an Elvis-style delinquent.
Yeah, with the big pompadour and everything.
Yeah, but I mean, even the clothes, like, the pompadour is one. The pompadour is not extremely Elvis. Like, that's way more just like a normal Japanese pompadour rather than like what Elvis was going for. But you know, there's that like fashion in Japan, like, you know, that clearly was extremely popularized by Elvis, but it then, you know, sort of took a life of its own of just, you know, a delinquent that dresses like Elvis is for some reason so popular in Japan. But I love it. It's the two aesthetics go together so well. You know? But yeah, the penalty game in that one was Beat Festival. Also, a real, like, probably my favorite way that a thing has ended. Again, a lot of times he doesn't really know how to end an arc, so we just hit the magic button. But that one was Yugi being very, very clever, and it's the one I always point to of Yugi being clever and stuff. I think it was the smartest end to a battle he's done.
Yeah, like a lot of the cheats are a like, you know, this is your ironic punishment because like you did something immoral, and now this is like, you know, the consequences in a like very magic way. Whereas this is a literal like, because of the way Zoji is as a person, he, you know, fails himself.
Yeah, and yeah, that's like what you want to get out of these arcs. That's the sweet spot. Now, in that chapter, we also introduced Hanazaki for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
How do you feel about Hanazaki? You like Hanazaki?
He's all right. I don't love him necessarily, but I do like so early on getting this other little kid who, you know, like, he and Yugi are both in high school. They're not young, but they have that, like, they're so much shorter than everyone else.
Yeah. Just these
it gives you this real, like... Yeah, it gives you this real, like, okay, so Yugi's not the only person in the universe like this, which a lot of series will do.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, we also had the, I mean, we'll get to it in a second, but we had the, who was he? Kokurano, the guy who was the psychic. I couldn't remember the name, psychic. But yeah, he was about Yugi's height as well.
Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, Hanazaki was definitely the clear, like, you know, look at that. He's, you know, around Yugi's height and everything like that.
Yeah, it's just a cute little guy.
Now, honestly, I think I like Hanazaki more than I like Honda. Like, he has done more than Honda in the series. He's been around more than Honda in the series. Even though he's been in way less chapters than Honda, Takahashi constantly does this thing with Honda where he's here during the arcs, but he's never drawn in the panels. And, like, he does so many, like, I'm going to show Yugi and Anzu and Junichi. But, like, Honda, you might see, like, his elbow in the panel, but, like, barely ever is he in there. So there's, I feel like so many times I've been reading an arc and then Honda says something, and I'm like, what the fuck, Honda, you're here?
It's so weirdly specific. Like, I feel like any other mangaka would have either written him out immediately, like, yeah, he was in chapter 1, but whatever, I don't need him, or, like, given him way more focus chapters. But
he has one focus chapter in the entire series.
Yeah.
Like, so far. I mean, you know, maybe you only get to Duelist to do something, but so far, he is just, like, also there. Like, even during the whole Monster World arc at the end, he didn't really do anything. I mean, to be fair, nobody did anything during that arc. It was all Dark Yugi, but still.
Yeah. But yeah, like, the main contribution that he had for Death Tea was, I have my annoying little cousin here. My annoying little cousin will do more.
I mean, his annoying little cousin almost got them killed half the goddamn time. He was trying to murder them at multiple points.
I don't know what to tell you. He's a horny, homicidal little baby.
The kid is also, like, probably the worst writing Takahashi has ever fucking had. I don't understand what it is with mangaka where it's like they get so horny and they know how creepy it is. like they're what they want to do in a horny sense is so, like, it's fine to be horny, but it's a really creepy thing that they want to do, and they go, well, the only way to do this is to make a baby character and then have them be the one to do it. And it's like it's this weird, like, you can only self-insert yourself as a baby, and that's so fucking weird. Like, the baby might as well be Takahashi, and that is extremely telling.
It's so weird. Like the vibe isn't even a like, well, you can't be mad at him. It is a like, no, you're supposed to be mad at him, and you also have to understand that no one can do anything about it because this is a baby, and they're not gonna kill a baby.
Yeah, I imagine everybody fucking hated it so much because it like so quickly just immediately like goes away and is not in this at all again. I hope that he never shows up again.
You don't want to see the baby dueling?
Yeah, like, honestly, Death T was really great, but the baby made it like full letter grade down, and so like it's hard to be like, yeah, I loved Death T because I remember so much of the fucking stupid baby shit that just made the arc so much worse.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I forgot that the baby was in Death T. Like when I got back to it, it was a real like, oh fuck, I remember this. Oh no, oh no, this wasn't an illusion.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think I like Hanazaki more than Honda until Honda does something. But I hope that Hanazaki continues over into Duelist. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't. And yeah, I think he would be like, out of all the people that we have, I can see Hanazaki dueling more than I can see Juniichi or Honda or Anzu doing it.
I can see that.
Like, it's actually going to be fascinating to me if Junichi or Honda or Anzu ever does duel. Because, like, I imagine they might, but I can't imagine how they would. Just because, like, there's plenty of times where I would imagine they would have done it in this, but they didn't, so.
Right.
You know, they're just not gamers, so. Like, but whereas Hanazaki is, so. Same with, I hope that, oh, I said his name so many times and now I've forgotten it. The guy in Monster World, Ryo, what's his name?
Bakura?
Yeah, Ryo Bakura. Yeah, I really hope that he sticks around majorly. I mean, he has a Millennium item, so I imagine he will. But, you know, I really hope that he continues on, because he is probably my favorite character other than Yugi out of this whole thing. I don't know, Anzu as well is extremely high up there. I fucking love Anzu. But, yeah, I don't know. Ryo probably is number 2, and then Anzu's number 3, I think.
Okay, yeah, that's respectable.
I do hope, like, I hope going forward, you know, all the characters stay, like, what I love about them. Like, Honda needs something, because there's nothing I give a shit about with him. But, like,
yeah, fair.
Juniichi, I hope we continue to do, like, the Juniichi is the most powerful person in this universe. He can defeat anybody physically. I hope we continue with Anzu being the most, like, neurotic, just, I can never predict a single thing she's gonna fucking do. She is completely unpredictable. I like, that's just the best word for her. I never at any point can guess what she's going to do. Like, I really thought that Yugi was the one who had the, like, you know, Yugi clearly loves putting himself in danger. Like, he's got, like, a boner for, he's a masochist. Maybe not a masochist, but, like, he is an adrenaline junkie, you know? Like, he constantly wants to do stuff that is, and again, I'm saying Dark Yugi, not Yugimoto, but, yeah, I think he's, like, really loves putting himself in positions of danger and everything like that. I mean, like, so fast he's immediately like, yeah, at the penalty game, I'll die. And, like, the penalty game for you is, like, so nothing. Like, it's clearly he's, like, it's not equal. He's fine just dying. Or not fine with it. He just wants to have that be a possibility so that way he can come out on top. You know, the adrenaline junkie. And Anzu, not an adrenaline junkie, just a, like, will put herself in a position to die just so that way, you know, Dark Yugi will come out and stuff. And, like, I love about her. She has insane will, because it's not even a, like, I'm doing this because it'll hype me up and make me better at this game. It's just a, like, ooh, that boy's cute. What if I put myself in danger? Anzu is the best. I mean, also, like, you know, her getting fired from her job because some guy, I don't remember what it was. I think some guy, like, slapped her ass or, you know, said something, like, really rude to her, and then so she just slapped the shit out of him and then was fired, and it was like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I was not expecting her to be that way from how the series started, but I'm glad she is, like, very, very, I don't know, she's got an extremely strong will and an extremely strong sense of self, and, like, she, you know, does not let anybody get in the way of that, and she, you know, she's willing to, like, you know, slap somebody or, like, tell somebody off or, you know, all that kind of shit. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, like, she's not just a passive character that exists to be a love interest or exists to be kidnapped.
Yeah. like, yeah, we've joked a lot about, like, you know, there is the classic dynamic in Japanese of the Sakome and the Bokeh, but in manga, there's way more the trope of the Sakome, the Bokeh, and the other one. And, like, I always thought Anzu was going to be the other one, because with most mangaka, they always just make the female the other one, you know? They're just like, here's our girl character, she is the girl character. And I'm very glad that Anzu is not that, and that Honda is the other one.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I guess next we have the one finger battle with the escaped prisoner. Did he have a name? No name, just escaped prisoner? I guess so.
Yeah, prisoner number 777.
Oh yeah, which is so, you know, the classic slot machine 777 thing.
Yeah, he's the luckiest prisoner.
I actually, like, I clicked on this thing. Yeah, in the anime he doesn't have that on his head at all.
Oh, yeah. The anime does a lot of stuff differently. Like, in the anime, he is, like, a completely different guy. He also, like, sneaks into the burger world and is the manager for a long-ass time. Like, Honda, Miho, and Anzu all start working at Burger Worlds, and when they start working, like, this guy sneaks in and becomes the manager. And then we have this long-ass sequence where Jonouchi is trying to figure out, like, are they all being prostitutes? Like, the prostitute thing also is so much funnier in the anime because he's like, oh, I guess Honda's also a prostitute.
Oh my god.
Oh.
What the fuck? I mean, honestly, that might be a better plan than his original plan, which was like, I'm gonna go to this McDonald's, essentially, where they're gonna have booze and cigarettes, which they did. The exact brand that he wanted, too.
He's the luckiest prisoner.
Yeah, I mean, he is 777, I get it. Oh, that chapter also was just fucking insane. So good. Like, and yeah, that is the one where the penalty game is just the consequences of his physical actions. Like, there's no shadow game here. It's just the physical actions having consequences.
In the anime, actually, I don't know why I'm only bringing up this one episode, but in the anime, they actually did edit that one so it is a penalty game. Okay. Like, he just thinks he's on fire.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I could see that for the anime, because yeah, there's so much of Yugi murdering people in the manga.
Yeah, in the manga, like, that one's just a straight up, he's on fire, and then you think, like, oh, I guess maybe he's gonna, like, be put into an ambulance or something. They're like, no, he's dead. Yeah.
And everyone in the restaurant is just like, yeah, we're just gonna let this happen. And it's like, yeah, fair enough. But, like, and there's the ones where it's like, Ushio, I originally said, like, oh yeah, I guess Yugi killed him. But it's like, you know, probably didn't kill him. But at the same time, we have not seen him at all again. So, like, did he die? Or what's going on there? But yeah, like, there's some that, you know, didn't die, like, or you could say, like, it seems like they probably might have died, but maybe they didn't. But then there's ones like the escaped prisoner where it's like, that guy died. That guy was murdered.
Because we don't see a lot of these people again, there is that, like, question of, like, is Ushio just, like, does he just think he's surrounded by money forever until he starves? Is the producer just going to see mosaics literally forever?
Yeah. Don't know. Or like the scorpion guy, like, that guy was like, you know, hit by a poisonous scorpion that would kill you, and it's like, okay, I guess he's gonna die.
Yeah, I mean, he should have some fucking antidotes. Why is he like this?
Okay, well, okay, apparently he was taken to the hospital, but still, there. I don't think we can get around. The escaped prisoner definitely died, for sure. There's no getting around that. That's a death. But, okay, so, yeah, that was the penalty game that was just fire with a tilde and 3 exclamation points. I don't... It's the only one like that. I don't know where any... Whatever.
I really want to know the context behind how these came up. Like, did Takahashi write this of his own volition, or did someone go to him and say, you have to give names to all of these punishments?
Takahashi seems like the kind of person who would, like to give names to each of these kind of things. Like, you know, the fact that he gives names to every little tiny piece of a machine in a game.
Oh, yeah. he's definitely the kind of person where, like, before this information came out, I could see him doing an interview where he's like, "Oh yeah, do you remember Peaceful Rest of the Timid?"
Yeah, which was the next penalty game. We're gonna Paper Crash was the game for the next one with the psychic guy. That penalty, it was Peaceful Rest of the Timid. I mean, I am so glad we have like names for all this kind of stuff and everything like that. Like, you know, I am very autistic. I love having like, you know, being able to put everything in a spreadsheet essentially is like the best thing in the world to me, is being able to put stuff in a spreadsheet. I love that feeling. And, like, that is what the, like, you know, having a definitive thing for everything. Whereas, like, there's plenty of other series I've read where it's like, you know, oh, well, we didn't get a name for that one penalty game, and like that will bother me forever. I'll be like, no, what was its name? Or like, you know, JoJo, half the time we don't get the stand names in the actual chapters, and like, I'm glad, like, in the volumes he'll then put in like the little page to be like, here's what the stand was and, you know, what it did and everything like that. And I'm like, oh, thank you. You know, I really love that kind of shit. You know, there's plenty of stuff. Like, One Piece is a good example of One Piece will never do that kind of thing. You know, anytime Oda does an arc, he's gonna mix around like who's fighting who's. It doesn't even line up in a way that is like, you know, clear. Or you can't even say like, oh yeah, during that arc there was this character versus this character as a main fight, because who they're fighting even switches up so much and stuff like that. And it's like, I love that from a writing perspective, but then from like an, you know, autistic perspective, I'm like, oh, but it's so hard for me to in my mind be like, you know, put it all into easy categories and everything. But yeah, as someone who hates jargon, I seem to really love jargon.
It's a little different. It
is a little bit different, yeah. Like, I don't want just like jargon for everything. I like having, I mean, to be fair, it's not jargon, you know, like, my problem with jargon is like made up words, or like, you know, stuff like the classic edgy stuff where it's like, oh, we call these people the life, and we call these people the death, and the, you know, like, just the stupid stuff like that. Like, you have to hit a fine line with jargon for me, and I think Yu-Gi-Oh hits it absolutely perfectly. And like, yeah, I mean, even stuff like the Millennium items and everything like that, like, just having this like categories to put everything in is, oh, I mean, like, I love shit where, you know, the game is about to start and then we say game start, like, game start right here, game in, game over, penalty game start here. Like, I don't know why, I mean, I know why, autism, but it's, but it's like, it fucking, I love that feeling so much of knowing, like, a clear, like, start here, end here, penalty game here, sort of thing. Oh, it just appeals to me on a fundamental level that I will never be able to fully express.
Glad you're saying at least a little of it.
Like, you know, I you know, it's way different than other series where it's like, where does this battle start? And like, you know, that could be different for multiple people. Like, they could tell you a little bit different. But like for Yu-Gi-Oh, it is abundantly clear where something starts and ends, which also makes doing the arcs, like doing my videos in arcs, way easier, you know, than a lot of other stuff where it's like, well, where does that arc end, you know? Or like, where does it even begin? And so, like, I really appreciate that. Okay, next one was the Griddle Ice Hockey against Goro Onagashira, your favorite chapter. Again, probably killed that dude with the exploding death by ice.
Very, very on the nose.
Extremely literal.
I love everything about it. I mean, I love the just like a theme of like some of these early games is Dark Yugi just being like, this the stuff we need for this is right here, or I went out and just grabbed this. And in this case, it's like I just happened to go out and get this test tube full of explosives and this puck-shaped piece of ice that I froze it in. So specific.
Yeah, and that chapter also, we had like multiple games as well. Like, you know, we got the ones that they were going to do for the school festival. We also got the Where's Yugi? You know, we got a multitude of things in that chapter. So that was very fun to, you know, get a bunch in just one-off chapter. Like, goddamn.
Yeah, I also just really, really like that. Like something you've brought up repeatedly in the reactions is how much Dark Yugi is like sweating and struggling and like, oh no, this was a bad idea sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like this fight for being one where it is a, like, you know, it thematically fits this whole situation. It's using the griddle. And then in the fight, he's like, well, I am just not strong enough to win in this one. Like, I have to use this strength against him. But this is not something planned out beforehand. This is just in the moment going like, oh crap, I physically cannot win.
Yeah.
Like, I just need to kill him.
Oh, yeah. So much murder. So much murder.
That corpse is somewhere.
It's just right out there during the school festival. Just step around the corpse, please. All right, next one was our first teacher one. The dark puzzle against Miss Chono. Penalty game of face puzzle. Fun chapter, you know, bad villain.
Yeah.
But, like, I did love the love letter thing. And, again, this girl getting a love letter, and then Honda standing up, and then Juniichi, like, say, who gave this to her? Honda standing up, then Juniichi also standing up, Yugi also standing up, and them all going, we all gave her that letter. And this girl's probably like, what? What is happening?
Fun trivia. Number 1, Miho is a way bigger character in the anime.
Okay.
She is one of the main characters. Or I should say in like the original anime, like the one that actually adapts these chapters.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Like she's around earlier. She's like, you know, she's working at Burger World with Anzu. The one chapter that she's not really in is, of course, this one, the one with the puzzle.
What?
Instead, it's about a anime original girl who really likes Jonochi, and so she goes to Anzu and is like, hey, I really want to confess. And then they both go to Yugi, and then Yugi's like, hey, let me go to my grandpa. Like, the rest of it's very much like that, but I can't get over the fact that, like, Miho's in all the other ones. Like, she's in, like, Monster World.
What the fuck?
But just that story, they were like, no, not Miho. We're not giving her this one.
I can't believe it, because she has no character in the manga. She is just girl Honda likes. And doesn't even come up after that at all.
No, like, Takahashi immediately was like, yeah, that's just a one-off character. But the anime crew was like, no, this is going to be a main character.
I don't know why they loved her so much.
I don't know, but more power to you.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I would have rather than do that with, like, Hanazaki. But, like, I mean, fair enough. Like, you know, it's basically like doing an original character, but giving, you know, way more development to a character who had none. So, fair enough. You know, I just don't have anything wrong with it. It's just, like, so weird.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I guess the other thing they could have done is given more characterization to Honda, because he still doesn't have
That's true.
They gave her so much, and, like, they do still have a, you know, like, they like each other situation, but she gets more focused than Honda does.
Now I actually really want to watch the season, though, because I do appreciate whenever it is, like, you know, I'm going to get so much more out of this than I would have from the or not, like, what I'm trying to say is, when I watch anime, it's almost always after I've read the manga, so I want it to be pretty different. Like, I like getting something new. It sounded like I was about to say, like, oh, that sounds much better, but, like, I don't think it sounds better. But it's just different.
Yeah, there's definitely some different stuff in there.
But, okay, thank you for letting me know that. That is fascinating. Next up, we had the game Coin and Sneaker. Just Coin and Sneaker. And the player was the junkie scorpion owner. So, bland of a And the penalty game was Poison Revolt. But, yeah, this one was, like, the shoe stuff was very fun, but the gamble, whatever, you know? The gamble was whatever. Anything to say about that?
Super interesting. Because you will probably watch the anime, I'll stop doing the anime thing, but this is the last one I find really interesting.
Totally fine. Please continue to give me the anime thing.
Like, number 1, in the anime, they, like, this is not a chapter about shoes at all. Instead, it's about, wristwatches.
Okay. how do you do that final gamble then?
I don't actually remember what it was. Oh, right. It was like this whole time base. Right. The gamble was like a completely original thing about like stopping a stopwatch right before it gets to, like 10 seconds.
Okay.
Like they rewrote it for no real reason.
Yeah, I don't know why they're rewriting a lot of this stuff, because it's not like it's, I don't know.
Yeah. It struck me as being so weird, specifically because like the air boost stuff and like, you know, just like shoe culture and stuff is already so enormous. It's so specific. The wristwatches are a subculture, but not nearly that big. It feels really weird to be like, no, you know, remember when you were a kid and everyone was into wristwatches?
Yeah, it's way more of an adult thing than
Yeah.
like a high school thing. I know like probably 3 people in high school who had a fucking wristwatch. But yeah.
Yeah. Then also like in both, I don't know how long it goes in the manga, but in the anime and for a bit in the manga, like Jonouchi definitely wears the air muscles that Yugi gives him, like at the end of that chapter. They don't have like there's no scar on them, which I guess that's fair. That would be a really like annoying thing to have to draw in every time. But I do like the general like it creates a little bit of continuity in these series where like there is continuity, but we usually don't talk about like previous gambles or like the events of previous gambles very much.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I appreciate that he does a lot of that, like, we're going to do something to a design thing and that's going to carry over. I'm glad he does keep those carried over. I do wish he was, like, showed it more. Like, in Death Tea, they draw that smiley face on their hand. And I didn't even realize that it was all still on their hands until the moment where like Yugi is like thinking about it, because, and I had to even go back and check and everything, because he barely ever shows the hand that it has it drawn on. Like it's always off panel, just so he doesn't have to draw it.
Of course.
And like that like really got me, where I was like, oh, so that's why I don't remember, because it's like it's been in like 2 panels since they've drawn it, and it's been like so many chapters since then. I mean, not so, it's been like, you know, it was like 6 chapters and it had only been shown like twice or something like that, and it was a big like, this is carried over. He is consistent about it. It's just he doesn't want to draw it very much.
Yeah, it's the dark side of being consistent of, if I don't show it, then they can't tell whether I'm doing it or not. I can then say it was there the whole time.
Yeah, because it is an annoying thing of like, it looks different on each of their hands, so you have to remember like what exactly it looked like on each hand, and yeah, I can understand why that would be, you know, annoying, but it is the, yeah, it's nice to have it, but it's also not nice that he never draws it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so I am glad that, you know, Junichi kept those sneakers and everything like that. That was very nice. So, then we get our first Duel Monsters game.
Ah.
The cards with teeth. And yeah, the first time we get our penalty game of Experience of Death, which becomes a very reoccurring thing.
I'm very happy that every time you brought it up in like in real life, because yeah, we haven't really like done discussions about it, but between like that chapter and Death Tea, every single time you mentioned like, you know, Kaiba being killed, I had to keep on saying no, he experienced death.
And the reason why I kept saying like he died is because, again, if you are experiencing death, then you have experienced death. Like, you know, the difference between dying and not dying is that he is still living afterwards. But the emotional trauma is the exact same as if he actually did die.
Yeah, like, it's a line that a lot of people, like, not in Yu-Gi-Oh! Specifically, but in a lot of other media, a character will say, like, I died and came back to life, and people will nitpick that. But, like, if your heart stops beating, or if you know, if you feel something that is the experience of death, then you have experienced death. Like, I do think that's valid.
Yeah, like, I always say it like that because I feel like people will, you know, when you put little, you know, what am I trying to say? Like an asterisk on it, essentially. Like, it's not death, it's an experience of death. People lessen the impact of that. Like, it's like, well, it's not like Yugi killed him. He just made him experience death. And it's like, that is the same as killing him. I mean, it's not the same as killing him, but again, the trauma is the same.
Yeah.
Like, ultimately it's not the same because he can still live afterwards, but The trauma is still there, and that's why I always said it in that way. Now I say experience of death, but I wanted to really get the point across of how unbelievably fucked up it is.
Oh, yeah, I get it.
But yeah, that first, match, really loved Kaiba's character. Again, I think that was the first time where the matches start to be ended on just press the magic button to win.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm glad that I immediately fell in love with Kaiba.
Yeah, it's something that I wish we had, like, focused on a little bit more. Like, for the twist to be, this isn't your card, and therefore, like, it will not obey you, and it won't attack me because it's my grandpa's card. Mm-hmm. Like, thematically, I completely understand where they're going for. It's just that I do agree with you. It feels like it's kind of a bit of an ass pull in the way it's presented.
And, like, I mean, it's very consistent. Like, that is just one of Yugi's powers, and he does it multiple times throughout the series. I'm just not a fan of it. I just don't like it. Mm-hmm. Like, it's totally morally acceptable for Yu-Gi-Oh! To do that. I'm not like, Yugi, how dare you make morals matter and stuff like that. But it is, from a meta perspective, it's just not entertaining to read.
Yeah.
Like, and that's where the trouble comes. It's like, I'm not faulting Yugi for it. I'm not like, Yugi's a bad person for doing that. I'm just saying it's not as entertaining. And that's why I don't like it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the classic, like, what I want this character to do is not what's best for this character. It's just the more entertaining thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes sense to me.
But then we move into the Landmine Search Network. Which was...
The what now?
The Landmine Search Network. You remember that one?
Not with that name, I don't.
It was the one with the Wild Gang, Hirutani's gang.
Oh, boy.
I can't believe the game was called Landmine Search Network.
Oh, like, the landmine makes sense. I get landmine and search in the sense of, like, he says, like, I've got a bomb and it's gonna explode, and, like, clearly the intent is you should be looking around to try and figure out what it is.
Well, he does specifically say, like, you have to find the trigger, and if you fail, then you'll face a penalty game.
Right, it's... the network. I mean,
well, the network
I guess the network is, like... Oh, I was gonna say, I thought it was, like, the contraption that Yugi set up with the puzzle and with the drips of water and the arm being propped up.
No, I think it's Landmine Search Network.
That makes more sense.
But yeah, it's such a funny name for it. But I'm glad we got an official name for it. But it's the wackest one, Landmine Search Network. and again, the penalty game is Landmine Prey. Landmine Prey.
What in the world?
Oh, God.
Oh, I don't understand. I do not understand.
So that whole arc was, again, I actually really loved that one and the Yo-Yo one as well, which is bringing the gang back. Like, I really like the Junichi arcs. The Junichi arcs are actually really, really good. Like, even the Scorpion one was good in terms of, like, all the Junichi focus, but then once we did the actual Gamble, it was like, nah, whatever.
Yeah, like, Takahashi does seem to have a lot of, like, delinquent ideas here, which he expresses through either, like, some of the bullies or through Jonoichi and, like, his past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wonder what he's most inspired with the delinquent stuff, because, like, it's not a very JoJo thing, it's not a very Dragon Ball thing, it's definitely not a very Western comics thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder where he gets a lot of his delinquent inspiration from.
Yeah. Because I do think of delinquent manga as being really, really big, but also, like, something that hasn't been big for a long time. Mm-hmm. Or, like, not since, like, the 90s. So it would have still been, like, in the zeitgeist when he was doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, it would have fit very perfectly. And there's also, like, not, like, one huge delinquent series I can point to being, like, that's the delinquent series. Mm-hmm. Maybe Congo Bancho, maybe, but, like, it's not even, like, it doesn't even have, like, an official English release, which is, like, I would say, like, well, it's not that popular then.
Yeah.
But that's the first one that comes to my mind if I was to think of, like, a definitive, what most people would draw inspiration from. But I don't know. Next up, we had the question of truth with well, I guess we're just going into the whole Man from Egypt arc. We played a couple games during there. The first one was the question of truth with the curator of the museum and everything. The penalty game being Ahmet roosting in the soul room. Boy, that one, I don't even know where to... I don't know what that means. Like, I know what it means, but I don't know what it means in that, like, sentence structure.
Yeah. Because, like, that's not really the way it's depicted. Like, I get the idea of, Ahmet is, it is this monster inside of him that, Shadi is now brought out that will execute him. But, yeah, it doesn't really
it's just the way
bring
it's,
to
like,
mind the situation.
Structured as a sentence that's weird. But yeah, so the Man from Egypt arc, absolutely loved it. It's our first big arc, multiple chapters and everything. Again, still for the most part, like this we did the Duel Monsters game, which was one duel for both of them, and the Wild Gang, which is one duel for both chapters. But the Man from Egypt still did, like, every chapter was its own duel thing.
Yeah, I'm just in awe of any series that can do that kind of pacing, where you are getting, like, a full story in a sense every single chapter. Yeah. Even if it is part of, like, something that is very serialized, if you're still, getting a full-ass game or a full, like, Griddle or something.
And some of them even carry over. Like, we have the fucking, zombie guy, which I guess, to be fair, the zombie thing wasn't it wasn't a duel in any way. That was just also happening.
That's just a guy is running around and Jonichi has to, like, punch all his teeth out.
Hey, Anzu did too.
I am just generally I do love that wasn't a your traditional cartoony you punch his teeth out and that's just a goof and then he's fine afterwards. Like, we do have to sit with it afterwards of, like, oh yeah, he doesn't have any teeth. I guess we're gonna go for burgers with him now.
Oh, the fucking burgers in this series. It is the most thematic thing throughout the entire series. It's burgers. Oh, you've got the light side of the burger, the buns, and the dark side of the burger, the meat.
Oh. What the heck?
Okay, so from Man from Egypt, let's just run through these games. We had the question of truth. We had the labyrinth treasure hunt. We had the trial of the mind. We had the hell quiz. We had the concentration or death, and then we had the game of death.
Oh.
What would you say was, like, your favorite out of that arc itself? You don't have to give me the actual name. I know I just went through them, but like, what was your favorite out of them? I would say my favorite probably was that Trial of the Mind? No, it was not Trial of the Mind. It was Labyrinth Treasure Hunt? Yes, it was Labyrinth Treasure Hunt, which is the one where he went into Yugi's soul. Like, it was barely anything, but I just found, like, I guess the duel itself was not interesting at all, to be fair. But, if I'm counting that chapter as that duel, I think that was my favorite, because it was so interesting.
It is really, really cool. Like, in the Duelist anime, they do that, like, much, much later, actually. But, like, I remember liking that so much as a kid, as such a, like, oh, crap, we're going into the protagonist's soul, and, oh, there's 2 rooms, and, oh, it's so cool!
It's so, like, I immediately felt like a kid again as soon as we got to that, and I was like, well, exactly what you just said, like, just all those feelings, like, felt it fully. So yeah, Labyrinth Treasure Hunt, definitely my favorite one.
If I don't say Labyrinth Treasure Hunt, because, like, that is really, really damn good, but I do also like the aesthetic of concentration. Like, specifically because it is, like, it's not that difficult of a riddle, but it is, like that chapter for me really sold the feeling of, oh yeah, I'm in danger of dying right now, and also I have to figure out this riddle, and I don't even know all of the clues, and Shadi just doesn't even tell him, like, the actual concept of it until after the game has started.
Yeah.
Like, it is the most, like, like, it's so much scarier to me than the zombies. Because the zombies are, at the very least, like, these are zombies. Like, I've seen these in fiction before. Whereas, like, the Amit one is just like, oh, there's a terrifying monster behind me.
Like, yeah, it was creepy as hell. Like, yeah. And I love it, like, again, we don't even have to have, like, you know, each one is its own gamble. Like, we can all, or its own duel. Like, we also have, like, Trial of the Mind is, like, everything Shoddy was doing there. But then we have, like, stages or, you know, separate duels under that. Like, you know, Concentration or Death is a part of Trial of the Mind, but it is also its own duel.
For Shoddy's Shadow games, I also really, really like just the way in which the rooftop they're on keeps on, like, changing as he does it. Or, like, the one with Joey is the, you know, like, it turned, like, there's a bottomless pit around them. It's the most, like, pure magic thing of, like, this cannot be real, and we know for a fact, like, the Millennium Items don't do real stuff, you know, very much. It is, like, illusion stuff and soul manipulation stuff, but it's fundamentally as if it was real. Like, if, you know, if Dark Yuki falls into that bottomless pit, he will really die.
Yeah. And, like, he might not actually be falling into a pit. He might just be on the roof laying down, but, you know, in his mind, he's, you know, falling through a bottomless pit, and that will kill him.
Yeah, it's the same as, you know, the experience of death is valid even if you don't die.
Yeah.
Like, falling into the bottomless pit is still falling into the bottomless pit. Being eaten by Omits is still being eaten by Omits.
I mean, it's even worse than the experience of death, because the experience of death is the experience of death. Amit roosting in the soul room is killing you. Like, the curator does die.
Yeah.
Which, I do appreciate that, too. Like, you know, just by Shoddy being an adult, it feels way more dark of him killing somebody. But again, Yuki's done the exact same thing. And so, I love any series that can do that, where it's like, this is the exact same thing our main character is doing, and yet it feels worse somehow.
Yeah. I also just love Shoddy's aesthetic. Like, the idea that he is, you know, an Egyptian, like, you know, the fact that he is not from the government. That we do, like, the, not double twist necessarily, because we never believe it, but that the professor is like, oh, you know, you must be from the government. And he's like, no, I'm not from the government. I'm from the people who have been watching over these tombs for, you know, millennia now.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and
like,
introducing him, like, so epically coming in, and so, like, you know, shadow cast over his eyes and everything like that. But then the first time we actually see his face is him crying.
Like, it's really cool how the early part of Yu-Gi-Oh! Before this arc is, like, there's a little Egyptian flavor in it, but it's the most, like, no, this is just, like, it's purely Japanese. There's just this one artifact. And then when Shoddy comes in, it immediately recontextualizes all of, you know, all of the previous chapters. As they, like, no, it's all a part of this thing, actually. Like, that's not just a throwaway thing we did for flavor. It is a core part of the lore.
Yeah, I think that's very important, because even with the Duel Monsters thing, like, we didn't have, like, any Egyptian-styled stuff in the original Duel Monsters thing. It was an American game with all Japanese cards.
Of course.
For some fucking reason. But I think that will always be the funniest to me, is that in canon and universe, this is an American game, but then in our universe, this is a Japanese game. It's so funny to me. But okay, so anything else you want to talk about with the man from Egypt or Shoddy? Like, I'm excited to see him come back. I know he's going to come back. There's no universe in which he's not going to come back.
Just that I really like that, you know, he does survive, and that, like, he has so much stuff to him that is not immediately explained, and that I'm just a sucker for when a series has so much confidence, when it is a clear, like, there is lore here, like, we're going to introduce not just one guy with a Millennium item, he has 2 different Millennium items with him. It is the most, like, I have a lot of stuff going on with me, but you don't need to know most of this, because why would I tell you most of this? I'm just going to keep an eye on this person because they're important. In what way? I'm not going to say exactly, but I'll give you some hints.
Wait, did he have 2 Millennium items on him? Well, I just now realizing the scales and the scales and the key, right? Yeah, but I guess those weren't the same thing. Oh man, it just now dawned on me that like, I completely forgot about the key. I feel like anytime I've ever, or not that I've, how am I saying this? Anytime I've talked about Shoddy in my reactions, I have mentioned his Millennium item as either the scales or the key, but at separate times. Like, I'm just now realizing, I'm pretty sure I've said both at, like, different points in my reactions of, like, oh yeah, and Shoddy has the key, or, oh yeah, and then Shoddy has the scales. But I don't think I ever remembered them two together until just now. Which is, I might have said it in my reaction originally, but it didn't, like, you know, stick in my mind. It's like, oh yeah, he had two.
The key is also weird in that, like, unlike the ring or the scales, like, it doesn't have an eye on it. Or, you know, the puzzle.
Yeah. But the scales do have the thing on it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let me look at a picture of the scales really quick. Just to see. Okay, yeah. I did have the eye there. And then what did the key look like? I just wanted to remind myself what these things looked like. Right. Yeah, the key might be its own thing. Like, it might not be the same as the other ones, then. The ring is also insanely weird, too, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
Yeah.
Like, right now, I do not have a idea of what the Millennium items are. But again, I have theories, but I don't have, like, I can put them into these categories like a lot of other stuff. So, we'll get to that when we get to that, though. We're talking about that mainly in the Monster World arc. Also, I was planning for this to be a whole series retrospective for early Yu-Gi-Oh! But man, we're already over an hour and we're not even into Death T yet, and we still got more shit to talk about. So this is probably going to be just covering the school arc.
Yeah.
I think we might split these videos by the actual official arcs, which is School, Death T, and Monster World, even though Monster World has a hell of a lot of non-Monster World shit in it too, but...
yeah.
It's fine to talk about that in that arc, I think. So we'll split into 3 videos.
Sounds good.
I mean, well, it depends. Death T might... We'll see. Anyway.
We'll see.
Next one. Well, is there anything else you want to say about Shoddy before we move on? Or the Millennium items or anything like that? Is there anything that you had a question about?
No, I'm good right now, and I think you've said, like, you know, what you're feeling right now. If I bring up anything else, it'll be for Millennium Worlds. Yeah,
we might talk more about it, even in the Monster World thing, just because I'm going to be talking more about the Millennium items there. So, next up, we have the digital pet battle against Kujirata. No penalty game for that one. And, I mean, honestly, no penalty game for a lot of the ones coming up, but, yeah, I honestly fucking loved this chapter. Again, one of my favorite chapters in the thing. I absolutely love it. It has the best panel we've gotten in Yu-Gi-Oh! So far, which is Junichi saying, Yugi, let's me and you mate right away.
Yeah. This one threw me for such a loop, because, like, it's not even a shadow game. Like, this isn't a magic thing as far as we know. It's just they made a digital pet, and sometimes you get a rare one that can control your mind. It's just evil, and it has supernatural powers that are separate from any other supernatural thing we have ever seen. Yeah, and I love that about Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, that, I feel like, is the foreshadowing for, like, Kaiba's whole shit going on. You know, where, like, Kaiba's whole stuff is technology and creating, you know, games that are fucked up. Yeah. And, like, that's what the digital pet battle thing felt like. You know, in this world, there's just video games or shit like that might just be sentient and, you know, be evil. And, like, yeah, cool, fair enough. Yeah, like, as the series started off with, like, the shadow games are the original games. Like, according to the lore, like, Egyptians were the ones that made games. And as a result of that, like, it makes inherent sense to me that any game you make might have some level of weirdness or evil or just, you know, shadows to it, rather. Yeah, and it's also interesting, like Shadow, again, we'll get to it a little bit later when we can talk about this more in depth during the soul-eating jar thing, but that Shadow games originated in Egypt, and Shadow games assumingly also originated in Egypt, but Shadow games are not exclusively an Egyptian thing, which I think is really cool. Yeah. Same with, like, there's other items that might be like the Millennium items, but the Millennium items are the Egyptian items. like I want to say this right now, in case I forget to say it's next video.
Yeah.
But I do really love the way you phrased Kaiba's whole like technological deal, because that is like, it is fundamentally like, this is the history of games in this world, that they are kind of messed up and they can, traumatize you. And Kaiba has, gotten back to that root in a sense by creating his own shadow games through, Death Tea, and through like, like artificially recreating the experience of death.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love characters like him as well. Like, maybe we'll talk about it a little bit more in Death Tea, but he reminds me so much of the main villain from, or I guess not the main villain, but one of the big villains from Kamen Rider X-Aid. Was it Kuroto?
Yeah, Dan Kuroto.
Yeah, Dan Kuroto. I knew I was going to get his name wrong, so I didn't want to say it, but I got it right.
You nailed it.
But yeah, it reminds me a lot of that in terms of, again, just like, I love the, like, making an evil, fucked up video game, but you want to play it yourself too. Like, there's so much of like the I am an evil CEO making this evil game so that way a bunch of people will play it and I'll trap them inside it, or whatever. Like, there's a lot of stuff like that, but I love specifically the, like, I am a person who made a fucked up video game that I want other people to play, but I also want to play it. And I think that's what, like, makes Kaiba a higher degree than a lot of characters like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the digital pet battle, fucking loved it. Again, no penalty game or anything. It was just, again, this thing became sentient and then we beat it and then end. Or like then the next one, the Maze of Fire versus Delinquents with the whole American Hero arc, which American Hero arc, so wholesome, fucking loved it. Again, very different from any of the other arcs we've gotten in Yu-Gi-Oh! Just wholesome, nice, good boys, a good father.
Yeah.
And then we get to the duel, which is fucking terrible and ridiculous and makes no sense.
Yeah, that felt very phoned in.
I mean, yeah, a lot of the stuff now is just kind of getting phoned in. Like, the fact that they're not even getting any penalty games really tells you, like, none of this shit matters that much at all.
The penalty is you fall, go into the water.
That's not even the penalty game, though. That is, like, it's not even, like, to be fair, the one had the penalty game be fire, which was just the consequences of a physical action that was being taken. And that's basically what the Maze of Fire is, but that's not a penalty game. Because I guess, like, there's no way to win it. Like, there's no way to win, there's no way to lose. It just is.
Yeah, you just have to run through the maze.
Yeah, same thing with like the digital pet battle. Like, who would have done the penalty game? Like, the guy was innocent. He was being controlled by his pet.
Yeah, like, the penalty is really just the pet being killed by Dark U2.
Which isn't a penalty, it's just how the game ends.
Yeah.
Because, like, that's what makes a penalty game a penalty game. Is, like, you lose the game, that's already happened, and now we're going to do a penalty game. Like, losing the game is not the penalty game.
Yeah.
So, anything else to say about American Hero? I mean, it was fun to see, like, he's obviously super inspired by Western comics, and then we got a little Western comic art sort of thing, and that was very fun. Zombire, interesting design.
Yeah, I love the aesthetic of Zombire. I love, like, the start of the arc where, like, he does a few, like, a page or two that is just, this is just what Zombire looks like, and it's super, exaggerated and very, like, oh, this is what Western art looks like. I love it because it is this, like, I know there are a lot of people in Japan who are, like, very much otaku for, like, Western comic book stuff. But I never really see that in fiction. Yeah. And that is the most, like, yeah, he's getting the garage kits, and he's got a full costume, and he's got, like, a Zombire bed.
Can you name one other character in a series where, like, their thing is, like, they love Western comics? I can think of like Joseph and JoJo. He loves Western comics. So like JoJo's the only other thing I can think of where there's been characters who have loved Western comics and everything like that. Or that one guy who read the Oingo Boingo Brothers book who was like, "Oh, I love Western comics." Well, I'm not sure if he said. I think he just said I love comics, but.
It really depends on whether the translation changed from manga to comics.
Yeah. But still, Yeah, I think, you know, it's interesting that, like, JoJo's the only other one I can think of where there's characters that like Western comics.
I mean, I guess it is just a fundamental, like, if you are not someone who likes comics, you're probably not going to write a character, like, even an incidental character who's going to bring that up as a thing. It's like, why would you?
Yeah. But, like, and yeah, I guess that was my point that I was trying to get across. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I don't normally like comparing series to other series, but when it's something so strong like that, like, you know, I would say that the number one inspiration he has is definitely JoJo. And, like, you know, I want to, you know, showcase how clear that is. Like, they feel so insanely similar. I said to you at one point that reading Yu-Gi-Oh! Feels like reading any part of JoJo, but knowing that 90% of the series is going to be a card game. Like, that is exactly how I feel reading Yu-Gi-Oh! To get across that idea of, I cannot possibly picture how this is going to be 90% a card game now. I cannot picture it. In the same way that if I was reading JoJo at any point and you told me, did you know you're about to get to a point where it's 90% one card game, I would go, you're lying. That cannot possibly be true.
See, this is entirely because I, you know, as a kid got into Yu-Gi-Oh! And also, like, specifically got into the manga, but also the anime was so omnipresent. I feel like if I finished part 2 and, you know, someone came up to me and said, from part 3 onwards, it's all card games, I would be like, oh yeah, that makes total sense to me.
But yeah, that's because you've already read Yu-Gi-Oh! And stuff, yeah.
Yeah, so I fully get where you're coming from.
Like, yeah, it just feels so crazy to me. And, like, yeah, it does feel like I'm reading JoJo. There's been plenty of series where I'm like, oh, yeah, this has that, like, wacky feeling of JoJo that I like. You know, there's a lot of series that I don't think are, like, Golden Kamuy, I've said a lot of times, like, oh, this gives me those feelings of reading JoJo, but I don't think it's inspired by or is like JoJo in any way. It just has that feeling of, like, super serious and also super goofy at the exact same time.
Right.
And, like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Though feels like reading JoJo. It feels like this could just be a part of JoJo. But honestly, written way better. Like, that's the one thing where it's like, I could see this be JoJo, but it's too well written. But yeah, moving on to our next thing, I guess. We have my favorite game in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! So far, other than maybe Monster World. I actually do really love Monster World, even if it's also insane in the rules. But I love Capsule Monster Chess so fucking much. It's the one where if we're gonna... also, me and you definitely gotta play some of these games, but now we got the big problem of now we are, like, separated by hundreds of miles again. So, that's gonna be very difficult. But once we, you know, are finally living together again, we gotta play some of these games, and Capsule Monster Chess is the number one I want to play. The only problem is not knowing how the, like, you know, the monsters have unique abilities and everything like that, but we don't know what the fuck any of those are.
Yeah, for some of these games, like, they're loose enough that we might just have to sit down and create the full game beforehand and make some more monsters, and then make our fictional gacha machine and put them all in.
You don't want to do it Yu-Gi-Oh! Style, where we just play the game and make the rules up as we play?
That would be more authentic.
You don't want me to just hit my magic win button?
Only if it's thematically appropriate. If you can thematically explain to me why this makes sense and why this is a punishment, then I will totally take it.
Oh, we gotta come up with punishment games too, or penalty games too.
As long as you don't pull out fire.
It's not fire, it's fire with a tilde and 3 exclamation marks. But yeah, the penalty game for that was also a Capsule Hell. But, yeah, how do you feel about Capsule game? Like, did you like Capsule game, or Capsule Monster Chess?
I like Capsule Monster Chess. It is, like, it feels very fun. It's the kind of thing where I would definitely look at it and go, like, oh, man, I'm, like, how do I put this? If I were a kid, I would really like it, but I think I would actually like it way more as a teenager, especially if, like, the capsule monsters are relatively cheap. Like, I really like the idea of, like, not in a video game, but with a physical game, doing the, like, you know, the draft system of, we're just going to get 5 out of these machines, doesn't matter what, maybe we'll switch them around, you know, afterwards as well, and then we're just gonna play with these. Yeah. It's such a fun idea to me. Plus, like, there's the additional thing of like I would also want to try and collect them all.
Mm-hmm. And like, yeah, I think Capsule Monster Chess makes sense why it's Makuba's thing, because it feels so much more like a kid thing, whereas the card game feels a little bit more mature.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, yeah, I get why that one didn't catch on as well, but I again hope that it's still Makuba's thing, because it's my favorite fucking thing. I love it way more than Duel Monsters, even though I do like Duel Monsters, but Capsule Monster Chess appeals to me so much more, I think, specifically because it's so physical, like of a board and the pieces and everything, and then we get to see like, here's all my creatures, here's all your creatures, and then it plays out rather than just like drawing cards and stuff.
Yeah. There are like multiple video games based on Capsule Monster Chess.
Ooh.
So we could also pick up one of those.
Oh, I'm so happy. That's so, yes. Oh, I can't believe that. I would have never guessed that in 1,000 years. I'm so glad they did that. Yes.
Yeah, I actually didn't. Yeah, I didn't know that until now.
Yes. But yeah, I also love like the art whenever he does figurines looks absolutely amazing, and I think it looks way better than even like his like drawing the cards, coming out of the cards sort of thing. Like all his monster art is the best art. He's incredible at doing like monster stuff. At doing stuff that is also like so cartoonish and so creepy at the same time. Like, there's so many times where I'm like, oh, that's so cartoony, but yet it is extremely gross, and I don't want to look at it.
Yeah.
And like hitting that like in between those two things is crazy. I don't know how the hell he does it. But even more so than that, his little figurines, whenever he does those kind of arcs, are his best designs ever. They're so good.
It's honestly really stunning to me that like Yu-Gi-Oh as a series has so many different things he can do with the art, whether it is like drawing figurines or like drawing like a fictional superhero, or like there's so many different things that he can really flex his muscles with that I wouldn't think about. Like I would think that someone with his art abilities would do like a yokai series, because then you can draw a lot of wacky monster designs. But he found a way to do it in this very, very different series in a bunch of different ways. Like, there's so many, like, art flexes that I wouldn't think of as being art flexes a lot of the time. Like, I don't, like, it's not always just like, oh, here's this, like, this super detailed 2-page spread. A lot of times it will just be like, here's this, like, plastic thing that we're going to use for one arc, and it looks like it's actually a toy, and this is how it physically works.
Yeah.
And, like, that's very impressive in its own right.
And when I originally read the comic that he did, the series that's just called The Comic, I don't know when it could sound like I was being broad.
It's spelled with a Q, right?
Yes. Like the last C is a Q. The Comic. But anyway, when I first read that, I was actually like, I've not read anything that Takahashi has done other than this. And I was reading it going like, I like the art style, but it's not like incredible or anything like that. Whereas now in retrospect, I am like, oh, that actually is incredible art, because it's so unlike his normal art. Like he was going for an extremely, like an extremely detailed yet minimalistic art, which is again such an insanely hard thing to hit. Everything he does is so contradictory, and yet he does it in an amazing, perfect like way. And the comic has the feeling of looking at a stained glass window, and yet at the same time it feels unbelievably minimalistic.
It is the most, like, there is nobody on the planet who, like, there's no editor on the planet who would say, you should make this series the comic, and it should be like this. It is the ultimate, like, only he could decide for himself, I don't need to make manga anymore, but I'm going to make this. Like, also just the fact that it is, like, a limited run series in Jump about a, like, specific holiday. It's so, like, mangaka don't do this.
Yeah, I'm so glad it was also, like, as short as it was. Like, I wasn't even expecting it to be longer than that, even as a short series. But, like, yeah, it was so concise and, good. And, like, Again, it's the kind of thing where, like, as I read at the time, it was like, yeah, I like this. Whereas now, in retrospect, I like it so much more. And now I kind of do wish that I read it after I read Yu-Gi-Oh! Whereas at the time, I do a lot of like, oh, I think it's more interesting for me to read, like, the comic before I read Yu-Gi-Oh! Or to read Ishiki before I read GANTZ or stuff like that. Where I truly think I should stop doing that because I would like them way better the other way. Every time in retrospect, I'm like, actually, I think I would have liked it better the other way. But...
yeah. Like, you are fundamentally a person who really, really likes, like, starting at the beginning of something, whether it is someone's career or whether it is, like, their art outputs or whether it is, like, the fictional history of a character.
Yeah.
But I guess the danger is really just, like, sometimes the first thing they do is also not that good, whereas it can be more of a hook to go into something that they've done later and then go like, okay, this is very concise, this is easy to understand, now I'm into this person, now I want to see what they do.
Like, yeah, I like that way, way more. But yeah, so getting a chance to talk about the comic really quickly, I do just want to say, like, again, like, re-looking at this art style, it is so unbelievably, insanely different from Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, it's so different. The thing that is the most Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the main villain, which I was so like, I'm not really that into this guy. Versus now, seeing Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm like way more into him, and I get it entirely. I'm like, oh yeah, I love this. Like, I love that every character in the comic is drawn in a different art style. Like, whether it be the main character or his sister or the villain or the prisoner guy or the police detective, every single one of them is drawn in an entirely different style. And hot damn, that's so cool to do.
Yeah.
I mean, even like the manga that the mangaka main character is drawing is an insane. It's a JOJO style.
Yeah. Like, it's the kind of thing that when I read Bakuman, which is also a manga about making manga, I remember going like, I can't, like, this has to be the only artist in the world who could do something like this, because it's so difficult, because you have the problem of, like, you're thinking about it as a, like, what are the people in this universe seeing? Because usually when someone does that, the art isn't that different.
Yeah.
It is just, a bit worse looking. As opposed to just being, like, completely different in its stylization.
Yeah. I mean, Takahashi, goddamn, he deserves all the fame he's gotten. He is an unbelievable artist. Like, I never would have thought it as an outsider, but the moment I start reading all this stuff, it's like clicks with me. I think like he's an artist that is not immediately impressive on a surface level, but then once you get into his stuff, you're like, holy shit, he might be one of the best ever.
I'm really glad you're enjoying him so much.
Oh yeah, absolutely incredible. And yeah, if you have not read the comic, go read the comic. It's so good. It's good.
Yeah, it's only 7 chapters.
Yeah. Go watch my reactions to it.
Oh yeah.
Then after Capsule Monster Chess, we get the. Also, I think Capsule Monster Chess's penalty game both times might be my favorite penalty game, just in the way that it looks with the big capsule, coming around him and everything. Yeah, so good. That penalty game is so, like, aesthetically amazing. So,
yeah. Then
we play the virtual versus game versus Street Fighter.
His name's Street Fighter?
His name is Street Fighter, or that's what he says he is. That's the only name we have for him, is Street Fighter.
Fair.
I mean, he is someone who fought on the street.
You're not wrong.
But like, in The Man from Egypt, Shoddy's, like, final gamble was the game of death, which is so broad of a thing, with them and Yugi and Juniichi doing the roll your Millennium Puzzle and then walk that way and blah blah blah. Like, that was a very distinct game. It should have had a more interesting name than just Game of Death. It was so broad. It's like, you really blew your load with Game of Death immediately. And then a few chapters later, we're fighting against Street Fighter, who does the Game of Death against Junichi. Holy shit.
Whenever I think of this one, like, he calls it Game of Death, because of the Bruce Lee thing. I always just think of it as the terror of 1 inch.
Yeah.
Because also, I just find
or the 1 inch terror.
I'm a child. I'm a child. I just love the idea of two guys repeatedly saying, "I'll show you the terror of 1 inch."
But yeah, I love that game too. Like Junichi putting the knife in his mouth and fighting like that. Like it's like they don't have a penalty game for this one, but I would say that I guess it's not a penalty game. It's just a handicap. To be fair, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, Junichi getting a duel was very fun because, again, if we are looking down this list of just the school arc, the people who were dueling on, like, our side, on the hero side, are Dark Yugi, 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 Shoddy, Dark Yugi, Dark Yugi, Dark Yugi, Dark Yugi, Dark Yugi, Yugimoto, Dark Yugi, Dark Yugi, Yugimoto, Junichi.
I would actually say, like thematically, it's definitely, like, right in the middle. But I think, like, now that you've said that out loud, I could definitely see this being more of the, like, build up to Death T, because this is also when we get the, like, oh, the first, the person who got #1 on this thing is Kai. Who could this guy be?
Oh, that was certainly building up to it. Yeah, like, I really like that we were starting to build this, like, I also like Kaiba is like the CEO of a company, but he is way more known for being an epic gamer around town. Like, it's so funny.
Like there's nothing that would make me respect Jeff Bezos, but I do love the idea of going to his hometown and it's like, oh yeah, every time they install a new game cabinet, Jeff Bezos comes in here and he gets #1 and none of us can beat him and he's not cheating. He's just a gamer.
I'm also so glad that we're saving Death T. We're saving Death T. I'm not going to talk about that yet.
Yes.
But yeah, I am glad that we got this build up for him already. And I'll talk way more about that in Death T, but just as our foreshadowing here, I'm so glad that we're already back there building up. And the fact that, like, I included that all as one arc of we get Kaiba, and then it is Street Fighter, yes, but it is still kind of connected to the Kaiba stuff.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, we'll talk about, I mean, I included that all as one arc, but we're going by the official arcs that ends here. So we'll talk about the more Makuba stuff later.
But yeah, I just wanted to express that I really like the idea of like having someone who is not Yugi be in this duel as a prelude, like priming us for this idea of Death T is going to be something that he needs to do with his friends.
Absolutely, 100%. I'm so glad that, like, in our first, school arc, the only people besides Yugi, whether it be Dark or Light, playing is Shoddy and Junichi. Like, that's cool. I like that. Also, have we gotten, like, Junichi's full name in the series at any point?
Yes.
Okay, we did.
They've called him Katsuya Jonichi before.
Okay. Because, yeah, I didn't like register that his name was Katsuya until just now, which that's got to be a big thing going forward. Because Katsu meaning win. So that's got to be, something going forward. Like, his name literally has win in it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if we're going to go, like, I'm immediately just picturing the Bakugo thing, with his name being Win, and Deku always being like, when I think about winning, I think of Katsuki. So, like, I can see that being a thing here, like Yugi being like, yes, when I think of winning, I think of Katsuya. But yeah, so I
also
yeah, keep going.
Just before we move on, also, I mean, this is a normal Yu-Gi-Oh thing, but I wanted to highlight how much I love the idea of going to an arcade and playing a fighting game, and you're like, oh, I managed to beat this guy in the fighting game, and then the guy just walks over and beats the crap out of you for real, and he looks exactly like Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
It is the most, like, you can't do anything in this city. Like, Domino City is just a place where if you try to do anything fun, someone themed like that thing will show up and kill you.
Domino City is so fucking funny of a place. Just like, I mean, even like Yugi trying to go to the museum and the guy's like, hey, give me your fucking puzzle. Trying to get shoes. I'm gonna fucking poison your ass and send people to beat you up. And you cannot do anything in this town.
We didn't even mention the the name Muscle Hunters, which is something that, like, in any other series, that would be, like, one of the top 5 funniest concepts. But in Yu-Gi-Oh!, it's so bottom of the barrel, because everything else is even funnier.
Yeah, or, like, the people in Hirotani's gang. It's Hirotani and then Stun Gun Troopers. Stun Gun Troopers!
Stun Gun Trooper!
It's so ridiculous. So, I can't. Oh, Lord. The school arc, probably my favorite thing so far. I mean, no, Monster Hunters or Monster World's so good too, but like, I just love this whole aesthetic of the school games and everything like that, and I'm gonna miss them so much. It blows my mind that this isn't, you know, like, this is what the whole series is. I like, there's a part of me that worries I'm not gonna like Duelist as much, and I really hope I do, but there's a part of me that is worried.
Yeah, this is like the general shift in a series is something that I think of as being a very like late 90s, early 2000s manga thing. Like Bleach and Yu Yu Hakusho are also very famous for, both of those series actually start off as, I'm going to be like some variant on a supernatural detective. Like, I'm in a city and there are problems in the city that are supernatural in some level, and so I'm going to be a Shinigami, or I'm going to be a spirit detective.
Yeah.
And then both those series immediately do a hard turn into, no, we're going to do battle shonen. Like, not detective battle shonen, just we're going to beat each other. I'm going to beat your ass with a gun, or I'm going to beat your ass with my giant sword. Yeah.
And I do think the thing, well, we'll talk about it more in Monster World with my predictions and everything like that. This has already gone on so fucking long. But, like, I do imagine that the base, like, what I love about Yu-Gi-Oh! Is going to continue on. There's going to be, like, the weird bullying, but it's going to be the card bullying. Or, like, there's just going to be people with extremely fucking weird gimmicks, but it's not going to be tied to a specific game anymore.
Makes sense.
That's my guess.
All right.
Yeah, I think we can end it here.
This is so much fun.
Yeah, I love Yu-Gi-Oh! So much. Such a good... Thank you for making me read this.
I'm so glad that you cottoned onto it and that you love it so much.
It's perfect. Okay, let's end it here. We'll see you guys for Death Tea arc. Till then, get the fuck out of here and go on the Patreon. Go watch my reactions, motherfucker. Why you watch this?
Please do. They're really good.
All right, bye.